Welcome to Basketball Network. My name is Harry, and today we'll be talking with basketball legend Rick Barry, ABA champion, NBA champion, Hall of Famer, 12-time All-Star, top 50 player, and the only player ever to lead the NCAA, ABA, and NBA in points in a season. Rick, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Well, happy to join you, and maybe one of these days, I'm going to tell you, I may get over to maybe we'll get to see you when I go on a cruise. We're supposed to go to some of the ports over in the Croatia over there in that area. And so who knows, maybe we'll get a chance to visit in person.
That'd be great. Rick, what are your thoughts on the finals? The Lakers got crowned as the champions for the 17th time in their history. Is this something that you expected all along?
Yeah, when they got there and saw who they were playing, I mean, I think it's miraculous what Miami pulled off. I mean, it's not as good as what we did in '75, which is still the greatest upset in the history of all major sports in the United States of America, and I'll defy anybody to challenge that. A team that wasn't even supposed to make the playoffs wind up getting, and then we were supposed to get beaten in the playoffs. Then we were supposed to even get to the finals. Then it's the biggest mismatch in the history of the finals. Yeah, well, and they're going to get swept. Well, there was a sweep, all right, but we swept the team that was supposed to sweep us. So it doesn't get more dramatic than that. And Miami, of course, was a team that was, they were at least expected to be a playoff team. Nobody expected them to do what they did. So credit to them. And, Jimmy Butler put on some amazing performances and did a great job for him. But when it came down to it, the Lakers just had too much. I said from when I knew the matchup was coming up, they just didn't have anybody to be able to handle both LeBron and Anthony Davis. And, Davis had a couple of great games to start off. In fact, I guess he did something that I didn't even know. In fact, this is something, Harry, I have found out more things about what I did in my career in the last 4 or 5 years than I even knew myself, because seriously, everybody's into analytics. Everybody's into statistics and things. People have gone back to look up stuff. And all of a sudden I see on USA Today or something pops up on a telecast and my picture pops up there and I did this and I did that. I had no idea because I didn't pay any attention to that. I just played. And so the Anthony Davis thing is that he's one of only 5 players now. There were only 4 before who in their first 2 NBA finals games scored 30 or more points. I was one of them. I had no idea. So crazy things like that happen all the time. But he was a little up and down, whereas LeBron was very consistent, deservedly so, got the MVP. And pretty remarkable accomplishment on his part to play and be on 3 different teams. And to be a champion on 3 different teams. And I think he was the MVP for all 3 of them. That's pretty unbelievable. It really is.
It is. It's probably going to shut up a lot of his doubters and haters.
Well, who has doubters and haters? I mean, my God, the guy's the best 3 to ever play the game. I always tell people here, because we haven't talked. God does some interesting things. And what he did with LeBron, he didn't allow him to become a great shooter. Okay. He only has one chink in his armor. He's never been a great shooter. I made a big stink about it when he was 2 or 3 years into his career. And the Cleveland Riders finally picked up on it and saw somebody say something about it when they were playing against the Warriors. And they said, are you blaming, the coaching staff? I said, hell yes, I'm blaming the coaching staff. You've got one of the greatest players, one of the most talented players I've ever seen. And he's in the league playing for your team. And you haven't corrected the major flaw in the shot with his elbow out like this. I mean, go look at the video of LeBron in his first years. His elbow's out here. Yeah. You can't be a good shooter in basketball with your elbow out. And if you look at the difference, I got no credit for this, but he wound up getting his elbow in. He's become a much better shooter. He was terrible at threes. He's still not a great 3-point shooter, but he's definitely respectable. And he's never been an 80% free throw shooter. So just think about it. Think about if he was an 80-plus free throw shooter and a 40% 3-point shooter. I joked and said they would have to outlaw him. I mean, he does so many things. He can handle the ball. He sees the floor. He passes. He's so big and so strong and so powerful. But he doesn't want to get to the free throw line. You look at his statistically over the years, he misses a lot of free throws late in basketball games. So you imagine if he was a guy that was up there, and God forbid if you ever got up to 90% and everything, it'd be ridiculous. I mean, there's no way you could ever beat that team with a guy like that. So, so that's God's equalizer. He's never been a great shooter, but boy, he can do so many other things so well.
Yeah, you can't have it all in life, you know. Maybe if he tried your signature underhand free throw
Yeah, well,
shot.
he's decent. He's decent enough to maybe not do that. But to me, if you can't shoot 80% from the free throw line, you're not a good free throw shooter. It's that simple. I mean, come
Exactly.
on. It's the only part of the game, Harry, where nobody's trying to stop you from doing what you're doing, right? It's the only part of the game where it's the same every single time. Same size ball, same size basket, same distance every single time. So if you put enough effort in and you practiced enough, you should be able to get to the point that you're confident. I actually can shoot. I can make 80 or more % with my eyes closed.
Right now?
Right now. Yeah. If I went out and warmed up a little bit, I bet you whatever you want to bet that I'll make 8 out of 10.
That's impressive. Maybe we can go to a court when you're in Croatia.
No. Yeah. Well, just bring cash. No checks, no credit cards. I don't take checks. Just cash. And I don't think I'm going to take the Croatian money either, because I wouldn't be there long enough to spend it.
So sounds great. Rick, just what do you think about the entire Orlando bubble experiment? It's something unprecedented in NBA history. And do you think that basketball will continue like this next year, you know, without fans?
Well, I'll tell you, it's unprecedented in sports history. I mean, God, I never thought in my lifetime I'd experience something like this. It's just insane. But I think the NBA did an outstanding job with what they had. Once they got it under control and did it, the guys were there. They didn't have any issues like you're seeing in football, baseball, whatever. Brilliant play on their part to go ahead and let it happen. And you know why they did it. Whatever it cost them, it was worth it, because all the TV money. They didn't want to give up all that TV money. And I'll tell you another thing that happened, Harry. My wife and I talked about it. They did a fabulous job of making it seem like there actually were fans. Whoever was doing the control of the audio, creating a fan noise and stuff like that. My question I never got answered, and I'm going to have to find somebody who was actually there in the bubble and talk to them and find out, is that could the players hear that when they were playing? That I don't know if they did or not. But yeah, it was exceptional on the part of the NBA to do that. Worked exceptionally well. And what I was surprised about more than anything else, being that they were away from the game so long and didn't have a lot of time to get together to get ready to start the playing, and I thought it was brilliant on their part to play the play-ins, to give them a chance to play a little bit so they can at least get some of their skills hopefully back by the time the playoffs started, so it wouldn't be an embarrassment. It really wasn't an embarrassment. In fact, there were some outstanding individual performances in the play-in games. There was a lot of good basketball being played, and much better than I had anticipated.
Yeah, when you take out the fan element, it kind of seems like a pickup game, and maybe some guys that would break under pressure don't. You see guys like Rajon Rondo just becoming a 3-point shooter all of a sudden, and just so many points in the game. So yeah, it was definitely outstanding basketball, a bit different, but I just kind of hope to see the fans again and just the entire fan experience coming into the league again.
Well, I hopefully they'll get back to some semblance of normalcy. I don't know how long it's going to take for people to feel comfortable enough to want to go into that environment, and feel safe enough to be able to do it. It's an interesting conundrum that exists, but I have to respond to something that you said, because I do this every time, and so you'll forgive me for it, but it's just a big thing with me. Okay. You said a word that is used so often in the lexicon of sports that it drives me crazy. In fact, I do a podcast and stuff, and we have a section now. One of my sections is called "It Drives Me Crazy." We actually play a song that goes, "It drives me crazy," and so this word drives me crazy, which is pressure. Okay. Mm-hmm. The reality of it every day, pressure's really on. You hear them use it all the time. I hear coaches, I hear broadcasters, everybody talks about the pressure, even athletes themselves. Yeah, well, the pressure is really on. Well, if the pressure was really on, they would have choked like a dog, more than likely. Because if you feel pressure, that means that you lack confidence in your ability to do what it is you're being asked to do. What happens in life, whether it's in business or whatever it may be, school, in sports, there are situations that are critical situations that you're going to encounter, where it's important and imperative for you to perform at a high level. Well, if you have confidence in your ability, you thrive in those situations. You want those situations. You look forward to those situations. I told people, if I could play every game in my life and control it, I would want the game to come down to the last 10 seconds with the game on the line and the ball in my hand. Mm-hmm. Because why? because I practiced enough I had great confidence in myself that I was either going to make a shot or create an opportunity for a teammate. Now, did I always do it? Obviously not, but I sure thought I was going to do it. And if I didn't do it, I try to analyze, what did I do wrong? You know, a lot of situations, maybe it wasn't my fault. I got it to a teammate and he missed the shot. So that's obviously not my fault. But if you have great confidence in your abilities, you will never experience pressure.
Mm-hmm. That's really wise, I guess. And there's probably only a handful of players in the league right now that want those situations. Before we dive into your basketball career, let's just briefly talk about your family, your children specifically. You are father of 6 children, 5 sons and 1 daughter. All your 5 sons played professional basketball or are still playing. I think Kenyon is still playing. Is that perhaps your biggest life achievement, just transferring your knowledge to them? And how is it possible that all of your sons play professional basketball? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously, I want to thank you, because most people never bring my daughter up because she wasn't an athlete and stuff. So thank you for bringing her up. She actually was, I adopted her, and you know, she's a lovely young lady and did not play sports. Everybody wants to talk about my boys, but it is truly remarkable. I certainly don't look at it as my greatest achievement of doing that they're playing basketball. I just think the most important thing that I'm proudest of is that none of them have done anything foolish with their lives, where they've gotten themselves in trouble. They're good people, which is really important. And it's been probably more of a joy for me than it was for them, because I got to watch them. Mm-hmm. And the great thing is, and I wish I could have had the same opportunity to do what I was able to do for my son Canyon, that I couldn't do for my other 4 boys, for Scooter and John and Brent and Drew, is that to be there all the time. Well, because when they were doing it, I mean, I was busy. I was still working for a living, doing things. I didn't have the luxury of being able to be free to do it. With Canyon, my wife and I went and spent 3 years in Charleston and spent the winters there so we could watch him during the season and the 3 years he played there. And then when he went for his master's degree, which is master's nuclear engineering, which is kind of unbelievable. Wow. When he was at, yeah, he's got his master's in nuclear engineering and a degree in physics. And he was the academic All-America player of the year in his senior year. And he was first team academic All-America in his junior year and second team in his sophomore year. He's really a bright young man. And so we spent that winter down there in Gainesville to be able to watch him. And then when he went on, and he should be in the NBA. I mean, that's not a father talking. I know basketball. I know talent. My son is a better basketball player than a lot of guys in the NBA right now. And unfortunately, he's not gotten the opportunity. The only time he's ever had an opportunity and had the ball in his hands when he played a month over in China and averaged 30 points a game on 60 from 2s, 40 from 3s, 90 from the free throw line.
I didn't find that online, but I saw him playing in this 3-on-3 USA basketball tournament.
They won the gold medal. Yeah, they won.
And
that's the only gold medal.
He was pretty amazing. Yeah, just the shot, and I mean, just kind of the IQ of the game. So I feel like,
yeah, well, that's it. That's it. The IQ. That's the part. He knows how to play. He has no glaring weaknesses. The USA had never won the gold medal in 3x3. That's the only gold medal USA basketball had never won. And then he was fortunate enough to get chosen for that team, 4 guys. And they went undefeated. He was leading scorer in 4 of the 7 games, played well. But here's the deal. He got a chance to really play. On teams, they throw him in the corner. He runs around. He doesn't see the ball. In 3x3, you got to play together. That's the way the game is played, right? Move, cut, pass. And, you know, I've got a highlight thing of him from there that I was thrilled that somebody put it together, showing the things that he did. And I don't know how anybody can look at that and say, oh, my God, this kid really knows how to play. And, you know, anyway, he's not gotten that chance. He's doing the G League thing with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and maybe he'll get his break. And I believe everything in life happens for a reason. God has a plan for him. He deals with it exceptionally well. But he's had a lot of things like that happen throughout his career. I mean, he should have been a starter at Florida, and he wasn't. But he made 6th man of the year, ACC 6th man of the year playing there. At one time, he was a leading scorer coming off the bench, you know, but that is what it is. And he dealt with it exceptionally well, and he deals with it. You know, I had one of the coaches he had in the pros say, Rick, I love your son, but in the situation here, they have to play the guys that are the two-way guys. I mean, so anyway, that's a whole nother story. It's a sour thing for me. I feel badly for him, but he deals with it well. And my other boys all had terrific careers. I mean, to have my son Scooter should have been in the NBA. Bird and McHale, I don't know if you know that. Bird and McHale came out. I got him to get through the training camp for the Celtics. Bird and McHale called me afterwards. They let him go. He was the last cut because they had 13 no-cut contracts and 12-man rosters back then. Now they have 15. If they had 15-man rosters, my son would have been on the Boston Celtics. And Bird and McHale said, Rick, your son should have made our team. He was better than our #1 draft pick. But
especially in the direction the league is going right now, with small ball, with great shooters. Everybody's a shooter nowadays. Probably even Scooter would get a shot nowadays. More so
because
than
they had to play. Yeah, no, it's but that's the way it goes. But they're all doing well, and he just finished being in the bubble deal that the Timberwolves had, and hoping maybe he'll get a chance to get invited to a training camp, see what happens. I've got some interest in some people overseas that want to have him. He was offered a job to go overseas in Europe area, but he didn't want to do it. The money wasn't that great. Yeah. He didn't enjoy the experiences he had. In tough situations, he wasn't. I said, don't judge your European experience by being in smaller situations. You weren't in major places. You weren't you weren't over in Italy or some of the other places where they have really good basketball and you get a chance to make some good money and you have a better lifestyle instead of living in a little small village someplace in a country. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so it's fun. But for me, as I say, it was more joy for me because I just love watching my kids play. I mean, it's such a joy to see them out there. And I've learned to do it. My wife, who was an All-America basketball player, in fact, actually my wife and my son have the distinction. It's a trivia question. The only mother and son combination in the history of NCAA Division I basketball, men and women, to have a mother be a first-team academic All-America and have a son be first-team academic All-America, as well as the academic All-America year. That's my wife and my son. And so that's a pretty cool thing that I'm very proud of, and of them for what they were able to accomplish. So anyway, cool. That's kind of, and then my family, my father was a semi-pro player and coach, taught me the game the right way. That's the big thing I tell every kids when I talk to them in life: find something you love, have a passion for, so that you can learn as much about it as you can, learn all the fundamental principles and concepts, because that's the foundation you're putting down. You can't build a tall building on a small foundation. And so when you have that, then you have the opportunity to possibly, if you are willing to put the time and effort into it, to maximize the full potential that you have in the profession that you are trying to excel in.
That's great advice. Let's talk about your basketball career. You were selected second in the 1965 NBA draft by the Warriors. You had an incredible rookie campaign, rookie of the year, becoming an all-star, receiving first team NBA, all-NBA honors. And to this day, it's one of the best rookie campaigns ever. How important was this hot start just for your career, I guess?
Well, I don't know. I just went and played, but the thing is that I had 4 years of training to get ready for that. Now these kids come out and most of them aren't anywhere near being ready to be a player in the NBA. It's such a difference. I mean, the level of competition and everything else that's there. I played on a team. Of course, I couldn't play varsity as a freshman back then. Now they can as a freshman. And I played on another team called Miami Dispatch. But the type of basketball we played, and the coach down there, who was Bruce Hale, a former pro player, and who was, it was my father-in-law actually. Afterwards, after I left school, married his daughter. But he played NBA style basketball, man to man, all right, man to man, push it, get up the floor. And this is a remarkable statistic. When I was a senior in college, without a 3-point shot, we averaged 99 points a game.
Wow.
Think about that. 99 in a 40-minute game.
Imagine playing with a three-pointer.
Well, especially with the guys that I played with. I played with backcourt. I had Rick Jones and Junior G, two guys who were, one of them I think was Mr. Basketball in Indiana. I mean, my father-in-law and coach there had an underground railroad, I think, to Indiana. He had so many Indiana players that came to play for him during his tenure at Miami. And so and then I had Wayne Beckner, was another guy from Indiana who could shoot the ball. I had John Dampier, who was from Indiana. John Dampier could shoot the heck out of it. In fact, until I saw some guy, he was the greatest long-distance jump shooter I had ever seen until recently with, guys like Clay and Steph. But the guy was amazing. And so if we had the 3-point shot, and back in those days when the college 3-point shot was nothing, it was a routine shot. I didn't even realize and pay much attention to it until after I was retired. I went to visit my son Brent when he was playing in the showcase down in Arizona for the NBA before the draft, and I went out and started shooting. No, actually, it was my son Scooter when he was still around in Kansas. I went there and went to shoot around with him, and I went out and saw the 3-point line there, and it was so close. I mean, it was just a normal shot. I mean, it wasn't a very difficult shot. The 3-point shot for the NBA is a serious shot, and so my guys would have crushed that. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, at least 10 points more a game. At least 10 points more a game for our team.
The three-pointer in the NCAA, when it was introduced, it was like 19 feet, 9 inches. Very, I guess.
Yeah, right at the top of the key.
Yeah.
And then it went down into the corner where it's short. I mean, it was just basically just a normal shot that you got 3 points for. So I was glad that they finally changed it, and then they made it, the international distance. And then, of course, now they go back and it's for the NBA distance. And I don't know if people understand and appreciate just how amazing it is for some of these guys from 3-point range to shoot 40+%. I mean, that's serious shooting from that distance to make 40+%. To me, that when I coach in the minor leagues, the 30% is kind of, if you can't shoot 30%, I tell my players, you have no business ever shooting a 3-point shot. And if you do, I'll take you out of the game unless there's 2 seconds on the shot clock and you have to fire one up there, because 30% is equivalent to the high 40s shooting from twos. 33% is 50. So if somebody's shooting 33% and above, that's terrific for your team, because that's equivalent to 50% or better from the 2-point range. When you start getting up to 40%, I mean, seriously, that's 4 out of every 10. So that's 12 points. That's 60% shooting from twos.
That's dangerous.
And then you get some of these guys who are shooting. I mean, one season, didn't Kyle Korver shoot up like 45, 46? Two of my boys, John and Brent, were shooting up in the 40s. I mean, that's serious shooting. That's really serious. Now, unfortunately, the game has gotten to the point where a lot of things, they just forget it. It's either a dunk going to the basket or a 3-point shot. I mean, it's almost like the mid-range game is disappearing. And I think there's always room for that. I think Jimmy Butler showed that what can be done shooting the mid-range shot in the series. He did a lot of that, and it's very effective. That's one of the reasons why the Warriors were as great as they were, because they had 3 players who were great 3-point shooters, who also could shoot the mid-range and would shoot it. And Kevin Durant, he could get a shot anytime you wanted, his size, because most of the time the guy guarding him was a lot shorter than he was, and he could do it. They all could go to the basket and finish, right? And they were all great free throw shooters.
Super versatile, yeah.
So how in the world, I tell people, how in the world can you ever expect to beat that team if all 3 guys are on their game? You're never going to beat them. You have to hope that at least one, and more than likely 2 of them, are having bad games to have a chance to beat that team, because there's no way to defend them, and you just can't do it. And in fact, the greatest thing was the playoffs, the one playoff series a couple of years ago when Kevin was still there. Steph and Kevin played great. Clay couldn't shoot the ball really well. And the first 2 series, he was just wasn't even in there. I don't know what happened. He just was in a slump. They swept both series with Clay not being a factor. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, and they were fun to watch. That's the thing. It's so much fun to watch. Pass, cut, move. And the only time the Warriors got in trouble is when they went too much to one-on-one to KD. And if he wasn't on his game, that wasn't the game that they play. Their game is pass, cut, move, play unselfishly. When they did that, they were indefensible.
Do you miss the big man game, having a dominant center in the league?
No, not necessarily have to be dominant, but have somebody with an inside presence. And it doesn't have to be the big guy. When I coached in the minor leagues, I had 2 different guys. One guy was like 6'4", another guy was 6'3". They were a beast in the post. So what you do is you bring your big guy out, top of the key, you tell him to go in, post that guy up, throw it down to him, and let him abuse the other guy. And especially if you got a guy that can pass out. Like when I watched the Warriors play when Baron Davis was there, I know that if I was coaching that team, I would have posted Baron Davis up. He was tough in the post, really.
Was strong,
yeah, big, strong guy. Usually could overpower something. And then if they do come in double, point guard who can pass the ball to open people. I mean, I don't understand. I have a hard time watching the games now because I see the game differently, I think. And guys don't talk about the stuff that I see. I don't understand, like in this series recently, how did they not take the ball out of LeBron's hands? I did hear he was saying some things, because I go kind of crazy listening to some of the coaches when they talk too, because they just all protect one another. But Jeff Van Gundy was saying, get the ball out of LeBron's hands. He's absolutely right. You don't let the best player in the other team beat you. And what happened on the play that was a huge play, when LeBron drove, they finally doubled him, and he had to throw it off, and everybody was –
Danny Green.
Yeah, and Danny Green's wide open. I mean, that's a good play. I mean, you got a really outstanding three-point shooter. He did it once before where he got criticized by someone else doing it, threw it out to Kyle Korver when he was back with Cleveland. I mean, that's smart basketball. You got three. You don't know if you're going to get fouled. You got two or three guys on you. Why should you try to shoot? I mean, and I heard Skip Bayless is the one that said it on this show, and it said, well, LeBron should have shot that ball. That's bull. He made the proper play. And unfortunately, Danny Green missed the wide open shot.
You're always going to have internet trolls just talking bull, but that was the right play.
It was. And one last thing, why in the world, and it killed them, why did they let Jimmy Butler have the ball all the time? Jimmy Butler on the play that won the game for him in that close game, he came off, he went right to the basket, and Davis had to come over, and Davis fouled him. He made the 2 free throws to put him up. But how do you get all the way to the basket? If you're playing good team defense, somebody who's 30 feet from the basket should never, ever be able to get to the basket if you're playing good team defense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a special player, so I guess he managed to get inside, but I agree with you. I definitely
Well, the only reason he got to the inside is because the defense sucked. The guys didn't switch off. And nobody talked about that. I mean, he went all the way to the rim before Davis came over there and fouled him with the body. It was bad defense. And talk about bad defense. How about when Denver was playing against LA, right? And Davis gets the wide open shot. What was Plumlee, who went to Duke, for God's sake, supposed to be a great school, he's supposed to be smart, run right over to LeBron and let Davis run right over, not even stay with him to guard him to get a wide open shot?
Bad defense all over again.
Yeah, but that's why I have a hard time listening, because in that series and everything I heard Reggie Miller say on the replay, it wasn't like there was bad. There was good defense by Denver. And I'm going, what are you watching, Reggie? what game were you watching?
Rick, in your sophomore year, you went to the finals, your first finals, and you scored 40.8 points a game, which is, I think, a record, or might have been beaten by Michael or something.
Well, he beat me in the 6-game series. I had the record for decades and decades. And the only reason he beat me is that he played in an overtime game and scored points in that one. That's the only reason.
Can you talk more about that game with the 76ers and just actually those series and that year, perhaps?
Well, a lot of people think they were certainly one of the best teams in the history of the NBA, and they were an amazing team. They had some incredible talent on that team, a lot of top 50 players, and Wilt Chamberlain, Chet Walker, they had Larry Costello, a big power forward, and Luke Jackson was on that team. Billy Cunningham was on that team. Mm-hmm. So they had a lot of great players and a great team, but 2 pick-and-roll plays between Nate Thurman and me against Wilt Chamberlain, had they gone our way instead of their way, we could have won in 6 games instead of them. That's how close that series was. And the thing about it that was disappointing to me is I played that entire series with a really, really badly sprained ankle that I actually had to get shot up before the games and at halftime in order to be able to play. And I look back and I said, oh my God, I can't even believe they let me do that. I'm lucky I didn't ruin my career, because God only knows what I might have been able to do, because I couldn't feel anything. Fortunately, that didn't happen, obviously, but it was crazy for me to do that. But and I couldn't practice. My shooting was not as good as it could have been because I couldn't practice in between. And still managed, to have the 40 points. But I also remember that I probably would have the record for the most points ever in an NBA Finals game. But I missed more free throws in the game. I had 55 points. I missed, I think, 7 free throws. And I mean, that's more than I ever. I wanted to slip my wrist. I mean, missing 7 free throws is like. I mean, it takes. I only missed 9 and 10 in my last 2 years. I mean, in each season.
You were 90% free throw shooter, so that's
but I was better than that at the end of my career. I was way better than that, because I was 90%, and that's when I was shooting 10, 12 or more a game in my first couple of years, and especially in the year when I led the league in scoring. But later in my career, I wasn't shooting as many, but I shot 90. I missed 10 in my next to last year and 9 in my last year. My last 6 years, I changed the technique. and refined it. And I shot over 92% for the last 6 years, and I shot over 94% in my last 2 years. And I brag about it and take pride in it because it's the only part of the game you can be selfish and help your team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. You became the first marquee player to switch to the ABA when you sided with Oakland following that finals loss. Why did you make the switch?
Well, I was a first-team All-Pro, as you mentioned, in my rookie year. I was first-team All-Pro in my second year. I was the All-Star MVP. I mean, so, and we almost won an NBA title, and I didn't have fun. And basketball had always been fun for me. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, and God rest his soul, and I really liked him as a person, Bill Sharman was our coach, and Bill Sharman was the one that started these morning shoot-around garbage that they do, which I still hate to this day. Hated it as a coach, but if you didn't do it, it was like you weren't doing your job as a coach. You know, my big thing is, and Will Chamberlain had the greatest answer to it. When Bill left, he went and coached LA, and so we'd have to get up in the morning and go shoot. Now, back in those days, we would just have jeans and our sneaks on. I know what it was for: get you out of bed, right? Mm-hmm. That, because you didn't want to have somebody staying in bed and leave your game there, because a lot of times. We had a lot of times, I mean, we always had to fly commercial. And so you get done with the game, by the time you unwind and you fall asleep, it's, it's after midnight, 1 a.m, whatever it is, you got to get up at 5:30 or 6 to catch the first commercial flight to go to the next city. And so, and then the guys would get there and they jump in bed and stuff. And he just didn't want guys laying around in bed all day. And I understood that. So, but my thing is that, and he was saying, oh, well, you want to get used to the baskets and everything. I said, yeah, but I also don't want to be tired for the game. So why don't you just get us up, go into a meeting room at the hotel, walk through what you want to walk through, have a little thing, get you out of bed, would accomplish the same thing. And I don't have to expend any energy. So that's my whole thing. I mean, I'm going to play 40 something minutes a game that night. Why do I want to use any energy at all at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning? It just didn't make any sense to me. Mm-hmm. So we did that. And so here's the great part of the story. So Wilt, when he's down there, Bill Sharman starts doing that same stuff and all. And Wilt says to him, Bill, look, here's the deal. He said, I'm going to show up at the arena when we have, I'm going to show up at the arena either at 10 in the morning or 7 at night. What time do you want me there?
Yeah, especially with crazy traffic, that comment really makes sense.
Well, why would you want to? I mean, seriously, why? And now it's a full workout. The guys are dressed up. They run, they do. Why do I want to do that? I mean, seriously. I mean, if I have to use and expend a tremendous amount of energy and effort and mental focus at night at 7 or 7:30 or 8 o'clock, depending on when the game is, why do I want to do anything at all to detract from that at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning? Seriously.
To have less energy.
What is it? Yeah, exactly. Why would I do that? Why do I want to do that? If I wanted to go out, guys would out and do their shooting around before they even come out for the warm-ups, right? I didn't even do that when I played. Mm-hmm. Why do I want to use any energy at all? I have enough time before the game to get loose and warmed up. And I don't understand why the NBA doesn't do what they do over in Europe, international basketball. After they have the intros, they give you 2 more minutes to go out and loosen up again before you play the game. Here, you warm up, you do this. Now you got to sit. You got to go through all the introductions, stand around, do this, national anthems, everything else. Now go out and play. Well, I'm not loose anymore.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Exactly. Maybe NBA should incorporate some European ways.
Well, they should, but there's some of the European stuff that I liked before is when the officials didn't have to handle the ball. You go, you pick it up, you run out of bounds, and you throw it, and you could really play fast break basketball that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of things. So, hey, I want to start talking about Europe. Why don't they do some of the things in the real world? Like you go into a hotel in Europe and everything, and it's really dim. And when you go, all of a sudden there's an electric eye. It turns it on, and the hallway lights get on. Or you go in and you have 2 buttons to push. You have 2 buttons to push on the toilet. 1 for 1, 2 for 2. And you don't use as much water. And then you go into the hotel rooms. First time I ever saw it, you take your key. You have to stick it in to turn on the electricity to get your air conditioning working instead of having it run all the time. I mean, there's so many things that they do overseas that make so much sense that we need to incorporate over here. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox.
I totally agree with you. But let's talk more about the Warriors. After you made the switch, they went to court in order to try to prevent you playing for the Oaks. and in the upcoming season, and instead you worked on the Oaks radio during the next season. How did that come about, and what was that year like just without basketball for you?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I look back on it, I gave up one of my prime years of my life, to try to accomplish something which opened up the door for everybody. I mean, I was Curt Flood before Curt Flood, because basically the Warriors took the position that it was an option on my services. And so that changed everything, because they had the reserve clause in there, which is basically a contract of slavery. Mm-hmm. You sign that contract, and then they issue another one. And then if you don't sign it, you're obligated to play for that 90% of what you played for the year before. And so you were locked in forever. Yeah, it was crazy. And so that opened up everything. But I did it because, again, I didn't have a lot of fun. My father-in-law was supposed to be the coach. As it turned out, they brought in Alex Hannum, who I loved as a rookie. He was my coach when I was a rookie with the Warriors. And I did stuff for the Oaks. I did radio and TV. I did college basketball as well, and broadcasting, which I had studied and done some stuff for. And so and I traveled around, playing in pro-am golf tournaments, trying to keep myself busy. I played for the KYA Radio Wonders team. A good friend of mine, who was actually godfather for my first son, Scooter, had a team that went around and played at high schools to raise money for the high schools and whatever. And I would go play there. I'd play point guard, and he was a little shorter and stuff. And I'd feed him. He'd shoot like 30 times a game, but I went out and played there and all. And then occasionally you go and you're going to have somebody playing from the faculty or other wants to try to prove something that he's going to be able to, do something to me. I mean, so, anyway, it was a good cause. I did that. And I just the type of person that I just, you play the cards that you're dealt. Okay. And so that was the cards that I dealt. I made the choice to do it. I survived it. If I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't. And I tell people, I said, I don't live in the past, but if I could be where I am today, have the incredible wife I have, my incredible other son, Canyon, that I wouldn't have had those. If I had not done that, my life would not have taken the course that it took to the point where I wound up meeting my wife and, wound up meeting her and marrying her and having my other son. So I just accept, what it is. But I think that my stature in the game, had I stayed there and had another year, like I was having the first 2 years, and stayed in the NBA doing it, I think I would be looked upon a lot differently as far as where people rate me as a player. But I think taking off that year, probably, hurt that. But what does that mean in the scheme of things? It doesn't really mean anything. I mean, I've been blessed to have a great life and enjoy what I'm doing. And, that's the way you have to take life. And I tell people all the time, I said, look, if something really bad happens to you, cry, get over it, because it's not going to do you any freaking good. It's not going to change what happened. And you're destroying your life, and you're ruining the life of all the people around you who don't want to see you like that. So but I also understand that not everybody has the mental strength to be able to do that. They really don't. Like, people ask me, I just was asked yesterday, do you miss playing? In fact, actually, it was my granddaughter, when my son Scooter's daughter, I happened to be with them. And she said, they call me Opa because he married a German girl and they were married over there. So, and it's amazing. In German, the words are like 9,000 words, letters long. But one of the longest words in America is grandfather. That's a long word with a lot of letters, right? Yeah. But in Germany, who has all these long names, it's OPA. I mean, so it's kind of funny in a way. And so she's Opa. She said, do you miss playing? And I said, no. And she looked strangely at me. I said, I know. I know. I said, here's the deal. I said, Lauren, I don't miss it because I don't think about it. I said, if I were to think about it, I could get depressed, because then I know I can never do something that I'd love to do so much, that meant so much to me. Why do I want to think about that at all? I don't want to think. So I put it, what I can compartmentalize, put it in the back burner, let it stay back there. Don't even think about the fact that I'm never, ever going to be able to do what I'd love to do for so much, and was able to do it, God bless, for 14 years on the professional level, and for all the other years when I was younger. So I feel blessed to have been able to do that, but that's the way I approach things. I mean, if something really is, just don't think about it. Then you don't have to deal with it.
A lot of guys fall into depression just after their pro careers because they can't probably, feel that adrenaline and anything else in life. And it's just really hard. They just dwell upon it. But like you said, compartmentalize and move on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, plus, have something else. I always tell kids, you always have to have a passion in life. So I had to find something else. I mean, so I found long driving in golf, which was really cool. And I got to compete and do stuff and won some world championships doing that. And then now I found fishing, which I'd love to do. I mean, I got to have a passion. And then I love pickleball now. I'm into pickle. I just absolutely love playing pickleball. And so, yeah, you got to have something that you have a passion for in life.
Mm-hmm. I got to ask you, in your comeback season, 35 games in, you tore your ligaments on your left knee, I believe. With healthcare being not what it is today, and medicine and everything, how did you deal with that injury? And was it just a really hard time, coming back to your old self?
Yeah, I was very concerned about it. Had to have a regular surgery and get cut open just for cartilage, which is now arthroscopically, and it's no big deal. Guys are back playing in, a week, 10, 12 days, they're back playing. And so I have a very arthritic knee, and, it happened to me twice. And so I have no cartilage in my left knee. And I wound up playing the majority of my career with a left leg that was probably maybe 70, 75% of what it should have been, and was fortunate enough to still play at a very high level. In fact, after my last year at the Rockets, I went in and had a clean out because I know something had happened. I had fallen and it was blowing up and doing all this stuff and had to get it drained. And the doctor, when I went in and saw him afterwards, he came in and he showed me the video and he said, "Look, this is what I took out of your knee. I had something that was as big as like a silver dollar and thicker that was wedged in the back of my knee."
It was like calcium or something?
No, it was. You get these things when you do, and the stuff builds up. And he had to cut it and do everything to be able to get it out through the small incisions and stuff. And he said, "How did you play with this?" I said, "I didn't know it was there," but it was, what a difference. So I got it out, and I got myself back and rehabbed and stuff. I hadn't felt that good in 10 years. I could actually sit down like I'm sitting now with my knees bent, sit in a movie theater or an airplane seat or whatever, and not have pain. I mean, I couldn't sit for very long without having pain. The middle of the night, wake up multiple times, having to take my knee and just, grimace and straighten it out just so that because it hurt. And so it was so incredible. And then I had my basketball camp that I had that summer. And I had a couple of guys come up. I had Marcus Johnson and I had Walter Davis from the Phoenix Suns came up also. And I would scrimmage with the guests that I have in and let our counselors, I used to get college kids to be counselors, and we'd scrimmage and the kids could watch and all. I hadn't felt that good. I was doing things. I mean, I just crushed those guys. I felt absolutely fabulous and never played again because the NBA in 1980 cut the roster from 12 players to 11 to save money. I was going to go play, and I had it worked out. I was going to go play for the Boston Celtics. I had the Lakers interested, the Sonics interested, and also the Celtics. I only wanted to go to a team that I thought had a chance to win a championship. And I was willing to go there because look at how many players wound up ending their careers in Boston, right? Bill Walton, Scotty Wedman, Tiny Archibald. I mean, just a whole litany of guys went there to play. And it would have been unbelievable. I could have played backup to Bird, could have been on the floor with Bird at certain times, and could have played for them. He could have really helped them a lot.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. And I was ready to go. And the reason isn't, they offered me and lowballed me a contract and stuff, but I had no fun playing there when I was there in Houston. I mean, it was one of the most talented team I ever played on, talent-wise. Most talented team I ever played on. I had 2 top 50 players. Calvin Murphy and Moses Malone were on my team, and Rudy Tomjanovich and Mike Newland. I mean, it was crazy. Mike Dunleavy. We had a really, really incredibly talented team. And I wasn't allowed to run the pick and roll play, which I made a living off the pick and roll play. I mean, one time I played and I was player of the week. I was 4 for 6, 6 for 8, and 8 for 12 from 3-point range. And the coach came up to me and said, "We're going to cut back on the 3-point shooting." I looked at him incredulously. I said, "You're joking, right?" And I said, "You're joking." I said, "Why in the world are we going to do that?" And he said, "Well, I think I'm going to go with the big lineup, and we're going to go with Moses and Billy Paulson." I said, Yeah, but if I have the two big guys on there, shouldn't I take more? Because if I miss, I got two big guys to rebound. And so it was crazy. And then, everybody said I couldn't play because I was willing to take a subservient role on that team because I just wanted to win. And I was like I was really the true point forward. I was the first point forward, but I was really like a point guard. I was at the top of the key, passing to Rudy, passing to Moses, passing to Mike, passing to Calvin, and was one in the top 10 in assists. But I didn't shoot the ball that much. I shot the ball maybe, 12 times a game, 11, 12. I averaged like 12 or 13 those 2 years. But everybody said, well, he's old. He can't play anymore. And I'm going, what are you guys talking about? I said, this is what I'm allowed to do. It's hard when you're only taking 11 shots or something. It's difficult. You're not going to maybe, you got to shoot a crazy percentage to get up to 15 or more points. I still was in double figures. So in one game, everything was geared towards the 4, the 5, and the 2. And I was playing 3, but like a 1. Mm-hmm. And so one game Calvin was sick, and because Mike Newland used to come off the bench for Calvin, and I played Calvin's spot, and so I played Calvin's spot in the 2 guard, and I got 25 shots in the game and scored 37 points.
What did the coach say?
I'm saying, whatever. I mean, I said, hey, I can do this. If you'd like me to do this, I can score 30 points a game if you want me to do that. And then if I had been running the pick and roll, it'd probably been even easier, and I would have made life simple for Moses. And I had worked with him all summer at Fondy Rec, where everybody used to play ball down there in Houston. And and didn't get to do that. So whatever.
Was it hard to transition your game away from the basket? Because, I mean, like you said, you are the original point forward. Was it just hard to make that transition?
No, not really. I mean, back then they used to, hey, boy, Rick really handle the ball. I get a rebound, take it up to court. I mean, I could dribble righty, lefty, and a crossover. That's the extent of my dribbling. Didn't do any fancy stuff, nothing through the legs, behind the back, all this stuff there. And I would say, I tell people, if I were playing today, the only part of the game that I would have to, 2 parts of the game I would want to be better at would be ball handling, to be able to do a lot more of that stuff. I think it's overdone at times. And also I would want to be a better 3-point shooter. I got to like 33%, which is, but I would not be happy if I were playing today if I wasn't a 40% 3-point shooter.
You touched upon 1975 and that famous upset, the historic sweep. Can you just talk more about that series when nobody expected you guys to win?
Well, we knew that we had a chance to beat them. I mean, I think our record and such, we had close games, one game. And the thing I laughed about the most is they said, well, Mike Reardon can guard Barry. I said, what? And Mike Reardon is shorter than I am, and I'm faster than he is. I mean, and so he had a couple of games. One game I shouldn't have played. My knee got banged. So I probably shouldn't have played. Didn't play particularly well. Another game, I happened to have a bad shooting game, which happens. I mean, and then I had a couple other good games. And so I just thought that was hysterical. And none of us believed that those guys were going to sweep us. Nobody did. I think they were terribly overconfident to the point that the team was willing to change the schedule because you're usually 2 games there, 2 games at ours, and then back and forth for the other 3. Well, we had a conflict with our arena doing stuff. So they were willing to play the first game at their place, come back and play 2 at ours, and then go back to them. That's how confident they were. And then, so all of a sudden things changed when we beat them in the first game. Then we come back to our place and we wound up playing at the Cow Palace, which I was thrilled about because the Oakland Arena wasn't available. And I think they had the Ice Capades were in there or something. I always tell people it was the circus, but I think it was the Ice Capades. And we come back to play at the Cow Palace, which I love their baskets. We didn't have breakaway rims back then, but the baskets there were very forgiving. I used to call them like sewer pipes. I mean, they were really soft rims. I mean, I loved them. And I think I scored, 35, 36 points in the 2 games we were over there. We wind up beating them in both of those games. Now they're down 3-0. I mean, and they were panicked. And so then we go back to game 4. And at the opening tip, Mike Reardon throws and hits me with a big elbow at the jump ball. And so I said, I might be dumb, but I'm not stupid. I'm not about to get into a fight with you, Mike, so that you can get thrown out and I can get thrown out. So you guys want to get a win trying to get me out of the game. That's not happening. So he kept doing that. And then finally another play, I went in front of our bench and he came right over the top of my back and Al Addles came out on the floor. Richie Powers threw Addles out of the game and they didn't throw. I mean, it was crazy. And so, but I knew what they were trying to do. I told the guys, guys, we got these guys. They're in panic mode. I said, Reardon's trying to get me into a fight with them. I said, they're desperate. They are desperate. We just have to go out and do what we were capable of doing. And we wound up doing that. I think in 3 of the 4 games, we came from double digits down or something. Anyway, it was great. It was a great feeling and great accomplishment. And it was done because we played like a team. I mean, and that's what basketball is about. That's why everybody's talking about this player. One player is not going to win a championship for you. His teammates have to perform. He can't do it by himself. They have to play defense. Somebody else has to score. Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, I sucked. I was like 2 for 14 at one point against Chicago. And Al was smart enough, put me on the bench. Clifford Ray's on the bench, our starting center. So we got a lot of our reserves in. We're down. They held Chicago scoreless for 7.5 minutes. 7.5 minutes. So if it's not for my teammates, we don't even have another chance. And Al kept me on the bench even into the fourth quarter. And I joke with him when I tell when Al was there and I've had to do some appearances and speeches. I said the greatest coaching move Al Atto's ever made was benching me in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals. And seriously, I mean, how many coaches would take their leading scorer and player out and keep him out of the game for that long in a Game 7? Seriously,
You don't see that, yeah.
No, and it was a good thing and what he did was a brilliant. It was a great move, and I just let him go. I thought I was going to go in at the end of the third quarter, but he still kept me on the bench. And then when I came in, here's the difference when we get back to we talked about confidence. I could tell you exactly where it was. I can see it like it happened just yesterday. I was in front of our bench, north end of Coliseum Arena, maybe 18 feet. I'm open. If I'm open, I'm going to shoot the ball, right? Well, when you're 2 for 14, a lot of guys might not be thinking about shooting into the Game 7. My thought, I have nowhere to go but up. I'm already going to be the dog about the back and then the GOAT, right? That you're the GOAT. Now it's greatest of all time. But back then you called you the GOAT. That means you sucked and you screwed up the whole game. So I knew I had nowhere to go, right? I mean, if we're going to lose this game, it's going to be on me because I did not play to my level, and it could have wound up costing us the ball game.
And shooters are going to shoot. Yeah.
I took the shot and I made it. And I think I made 5 of my last 7. So I think I scored in that last period that I was in. I scored 10 points, made some passes for assists. One of them I went up for a shot and hit George Johnson rolling to the basket, which was a big play and kind of broke their back. George is blocking everything down the other end with the defense. And we wound up winning the Western Conference and getting a chance to go to the finals. But that's what it's about. I try to tell people it's not one person. You have to have other people contributing. And if it wasn't for my teammates, we never win the Western Conference title. And certainly we don't win the championship either.
Rick, just when browsing through your impressive resume, your CV and all your accomplishments and honors, I get a feeling that you don't get enough credit. You don't get credit where credit is due. And that was really weird for me. So I started reading around and I found this article from 1983 from Sports Illustrated talking about you being very unlikable in the league, even hate.
That was brutal. The guy called me Daddy Dearest, I think was the title of it in Sports Illustrated. It was horrible. My son's it was horrible. That was just a horrible thing what this guy did. And talking about that I was like, it's crazy. I mean, I know opponents didn't like me because I went out there to kick your butt. I didn't go out there to make friends with you.
You're
And
competitive.
if I'm going to I'm going to beat you as badly as I can beat you. I don't want to be I don't have to be your friend. I don't want to be your friend. I mean, you're my opponent. So I'm going to beat you as badly as I can. And so I wasn't liked. And that's the reason why I was an MVP the year that we won the championship. I didn't even finish second in the MVP voting. Why? Because it's the only time the idiots went and turned it over to the players to vote.
The players voted, yeah.
Well, the players are going to vote. They're going to let their emotions come in. I mean, and that year, I tell people, in my mind, I know I was the MVP of that season without question. And in my mind, I'll always feel that way because the writers who usually pick the MVP, right? The writers, I was the only unanimous choice for first team All-Pro. Does that tell you something?
It definitely does.
Yeah. So who would have been the MVP? Yeah, I would have. But the thing is, it doesn't matter because that would have been nice to be the MVP, but I got a ring. And I didn't play for other honors. I didn't play to get individual honors. I played to win championships. That's what it was all about. And if you don't win a championship, the other things are superfluous. I mean, they really are. And I always equate it this way. I said, you could take a birthday cake, okay? put it on the plate. It doesn't look that great. You know, you need to have some other things. So getting a championship, you know, scoring title, free throw leader, steals leader, all these other things I did. Now I got icing. I got little, you know, little flowers I made out of things. I got candles. I got all cherries. And it looks really nice, right? But take all of those things, right? All of those awards that I got, they're putting on that cake and put it on a plate without the cake. What does it look like? It's like a mess.
That's a really great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have the cake.
Exactly. During your time in the league, you played against some greats, some great players: Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Jerry West, Oscar Robertson.
3 different decades.
Yeah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, so many guys.
Larry Bird. You know,
Exactly.
I didn't get to play.
I mean, the list is
it's crazy. It's crazy
and too long to even start or to continue. My question is, would you say the game was more competitive or more fierce just back then? Just back in terms of players not being friends off the court, or is that just myth?
No, I think it was more competitive back in those days, but I also think that the players understood how to play the game the right way. It wasn't so much of the one-on-one stuff that goes on right now, which is a little bit crazy. But to say that the guys aren't competitive, I mean, come on, they're out there playing. They're incredible athletes. They're playing, doing stuff. Wasn't as physical. I mean, it was more physical then than it is now. I mean, now you can't hardly put your hands on people. But then there are times that I wonder the officials swallow their whistle. I mean, sometimes these guys are killing each other. 2 guys crash into each other in their drive to the basket and the whistle never blows. I'm sorry. When I did broadcasting breaks, I'm sorry. That's a foul. It didn't have to be a charge or a block. You cannot have 2 bodies crash together, wind up on the court, and have no foul committed. Somebody committed a foul there. You know, and the problem with the NBA is, and I really truly believe this, is that there was this big thing about the officials felt that they want the players to determine the outcome of the game. I said, well, the players are determining the outcome of the game. If you violate a rule, it's your job to blow the whistle and make that call. It's the player who did the problem. He did it. It's not you blowing the whistle. You're doing your job. He committed a foul. He was holding. He was doing something else. You need to blow your whistle and call that play. And a lot of times they don't want to do that. And they didn't do that. I mean, it really is. Maybe that's one of the reasons why. I mean, because when I broadcast and stuff, I would tell the truth about that stuff. And I felt like Jack Nicholson has said in A Few Good Men, you know, in the courtroom scene with Tom Cruise, you know, you can't handle the truth. I mean, it's true. People, they can't handle the truth. They get mad at you if you give them an answer. When I get asked questions, I give answers that people don't like it. So they get mad at me. I said, why are you getting mad at me? I said, it's just my opinion about something. It happens to be truthful. If you don't like it, you don't have to like it, but don't get mad at me.
Don't ask the question.
The truth.
Yeah,
Thank you. If you're not ready to hear any answer at all, and you only want to hear the answer that you want to hear, then don't ask the damn question.
Exactly. Rick, we like to end all of our interviews with a series of quick-fire questions. So just really short questions and answers. Who's the best teammate you ever played with?
Clifford Ray. He's like my brother. We go fishing together. Awesome person. And we wouldn't have won the championship without him. I can tell you a whole bunch of stories about that.
I saw that fishing trip up in Alaska. That's what you two host those trips. That's pretty cool.
Well, we go together and we have a wonderful time. He's, you know, like I say, we're like brothers. He's awesome. I love him.
Who's the most underrated player in the league right now?
Very hard to say. There's a lot of guys that don't get recognition, and I don't watch it that closely now because I'm not broadcasting. So I don't watch it to get, you know, to be able to form an opinion like that. If I was doing broadcasting, I'd probably have a couple of, you know, 2-3 guys that I could probably say that would be the case, but don't watch it enough to give an answer that would be meaningful.
All right. Who was your toughest matchup, your nemesis back in the day?
Nobody. I always got the best defender to play against me. The thing I had the most difficulty for me is when I had to guard a big, strong guy who would post up, because I wasn't a big, strong guy. I try to use my quickness, try to 3/4 him, front him if I could. But, you know, a big guy could overpower me in the post. So that was the hardest thing for me to have to do. But as far as someone guarding me, I mean, I played against some, the best defensive players the team had, and that's what made it easy for me. I was prepared. I can honestly say only one quarter of one game in my life that I not mentally ready to play. Something was happening in my life that I let it affect me, and I was so mad at myself at the end of that quarter, and I never let it happen again. That's the compartmentalization that I have the ability to do. But otherwise, I was always ready. The guy that was probably the most relentless defender against me, totally committed to me, was a guy by the name of E.C. Coleman. And EC was so committed to me to the point that it was not good for his team, because if you're my teammate, you're standing 3 feet away from me and you're open and I throw you the ball, you're getting a wide open shot. He's not leaving me, which is not good basketball, right? So,
exactly.
And I even joked one time when we played in the Superdome when he was on the New Orleans team, and I said to I'm walking to the huddle and he's walking with a timeout. I said, "Hey, EC, I'm sorry, but you're not allowed to come to the huddle with me." So yeah,
it's hilarious. Who's the GOAT in your opinion?
Yeah, well, see, that's another thing, another area of mine that I go nuts when I hear all the people talk about. Well, the only GOAT is the GOAT at every position. You can't compare everybody. You're going to compare LeBron James to Wilt Chamberlain? No, thank you. You can't compare him to, you can compare Larry Bird, right? You can't compare him to Jerry West, who was a 2. You can't compare him to Michael Jordan, who was a 2, which everybody does.
And
he's the greatest. He's the greatest ever. No. The skills required to play your position in each position are different, even though they've changed somewhat. Now the 4s are out there shooting 3-point shots. But basically, the bottom line of it is that somebody says he's the greatest for LeBron, greatest of all time, man. He's the greatest 3 of all time. And he may have done more in the finals than other players have done, and it's a remarkable accomplishment. But you can't say he's better than Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, Wilt Chamberlain did things that no human being is ever going to do, and for the rest of the game of basketball going on hopefully for centuries. I mean, come on, he's 50 points a game. Harry, come on. I mean, that's insane.
100-point game as well.
100 points in one game. How about 22.5 rebounds, career average for rebounds?
It's absolutely.
I mean, it's
crazy.
Insane. Led the league in assists one year.
Let's put it this way. Even though it's not even okay to compare eras, but okay, let's talk about the best positions. So, all-time starting 5 in your opinion.
Well, I get this question a lot. Okay, so I'm going to pick the 4 guys that I would want to play with, and then you can pick your 5, and I'll play against them. I'm taking Wilt Chamberlain at center. Bill Russell is going to be my power forward, because I don't need Bill Russell to score a point, okay? But he's going to play defense, and he's going to block shots. And between he and Wilt, I defy anybody to try to go to the basket and get dunks all the time. That's not happening, okay? That was a fast break. So I got that covered. I'm playing 3. I'm going to take Michael at the 2. Even though I love, LeBron is great in doing stuff, but I just, Michael's pretty special, and so is LeBron. But I would take Michael, LeBron right there with him. I mean, I would put him at the 2, even though he's a 3. I mean, because I'm a 3. Mm-hmm. But I take Michael at the 2. And the only way I'm cheating, because I'm taking Russell playing 4 because he's the center. Okay, so. And then if I had to take a 4, I probably would take Tim Duncan. If I had to take a 4 and I couldn't cheat and take Russell instead of it. And then the point guard is the hardest one, to do, because there's so many guys I love. I mean, I love Stockton. I love Magic Johnson, obviously. There's a lot of great point guards who have played the game doing it. And Steve Nash is also someone that I absolutely love. And I'll tell you why I love Steve, because if you needed 30, Steve could get you 30, but he'd rather get 15 or 20 assists. And he's the only guy that I've seen play the game. And as again, some of the ones I mentioned are incredible. And there's a bunch of other ones out there that we can throw into the equation. I've never seen anybody be able to make any pass with either hand like Steve Nash does, like he did. He was amazing.
And he was amazing. Always pass first. He always enjoyed a good pass.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But with that being said, I'm going to take Magic. Because of his versatility and his size and the things he does. And he also would rather get 15 or 20 assists, but he also could get you 20 or more points if you needed it. So that's my team.
That's
Magic, Bird, these are at the positions. And I have me, and I'm cheating by putting Russell at the 4, because as great as Tim Duncan is and everything, Tim is a scorer too, but I don't need a point from Bill Russell. Don't Don't need a point. I got somebody that averaged 50 points a game. I got Michael who averaged 35 or 40.
That's a crazy starting five.
Right?
That's a crazy
give me a
starting
break.
five.
I don't need anybody else to score points. Plus, I say I want a few shots myself. You know?
Yeah. That's crazy.
That's it.
Best international player of all time, in your opinion?
Wow. You know the guy that probably would have been if he Sabonis.
I was about to say, yeah.
Sabonis. People have no idea how incredible Sabonis was because they saw a shadow of him when he came over, and he still was a major factor coming over there. Heavier, didn't have the mobility that he had a bunch of Achilles operations that slowed him down. People have no idea how good he was. He was unbelievable. Sabonis, I saw him play because I coached in the I broadcast the World Championships in Spain way back when, in 1980, I think. When the Goodwill games were going on, or 80, maybe it might have been 86, whatever it was. Anyway, he was amazing. And so I would have to say, as for a big man, without question, it would be him. Also, I think Drazen Petrovic was an incredible player. I think that Šarūnas Marciulionis was a great player overseas. The guys I got to see playing. Yao Ming was definitely a big factor as far as foreign players were concerned. And I told people I went over and coached against the Chinese team, but with a bunch of retired guys. And I came back and told them, I said, there's 3 big guys over in China that can play in the NBA. They said, what, are you crazy? I said, no, I'm telling you, one of them is going to be a factor. And that was Yao Ming. The other ones, I said, they will probably be able to play here a little bit. And they did, but not for the Wang Zhizhi played for a little bit here, and it wasn't too bad. And then Mink Patir, and he played a little bit for a few years. But I said, they're capable. They're good enough to play in this league. And I went back home and told a bunch of people about Šarūnas Marciulionis. And they thought I was out of mind. I told them about Drazen Petrovic, and they, thought I was crazy. It's
crazy how the league has evolved and kind of the internationalization that happened, because back then, these players you just mentioned, Sabonis, Petrovic, Marciulionis, they kind of paved the way for everybody else. And today,
a lot of great ones still. I mean, come on, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. I mean, you can start naming.
Nowitzki.
Yeah, Dick Nowitzki, another guy. I mean, although I never understood why Nowitzki didn't. I kept saying, go down and get the damn low post game occasionally. You always got a little guy guarding you. Go take him down and, abuse him in the post.
He liked to shoot more.
Oh, he loved to shoot him. And I tell you what, one of the great shots, the true shot. He had one of the best arcs for opening up the basket. I tell you, you got to shoot up, not out. There's a lot of shooters, even Ray Allen and Kobe Bryant, they were a little flat in their shots. And when you shoot the ball flat, you have a smaller target to be able to make. And Nowitzki, unbelievable. Yeah, he was amazing. But there's been a lot of great players who played from overseas that did a good job for the teams. Vlade Divac, you can just keep rattling them off, left and right. A lot of guys that become good players, and came over and did a good job. But Mutombo coming over from Africa, Olajuwon, geez. Just look at the percentage of foreign players that are playing in the league now. And the guy that's been a huge surprise to me is Dokic. My God. And Jokic. The Joker. He's fun to watch. And here's the thing about both of those guys. If you look at both of those guys, it's like they don't spend a lot of time in the gym. Most of our guys now are cut like Greek gods. They've got these incredible bodies. Neither one of those guys, look like they have this great definition. And I think that maybe Dokic is getting a little better. But, man, he's a hell of a player. He was a big surprise.
And moving on, I guess, Olympic gold or NBA ring. If you had to choose, what would be your pick?
I won both. That's the biggest disappointment in my life that I didn't get to be on the Olympic team. Seriously, one time I played in the game where I had USA on my chest. Played against the Russian team. They were the Russian team back then before it became the Soviet Union, and hearing the national anthem with that on my chest was just incredible. I can't even imagine to have a gold medal around my neck and have USA on my chest, how that would be. I know how my son was so emotional experience, Canyon, when he got to play in that USA team for the 3x3 World Cup and have that with him. I have a great picture of him there with his eyes closed. It's very special. And so I really missed out on that. That's my biggest disappointment in my career. But it'd be hard to say that the NBA won, because it's the greatest players in the world all playing over there. The Olympics, you're playing against some competition they couldn't beat you. And we know if you were playing with one leg, maybe. Some of the teams back then weren't very good. we were so dominant, it wouldn't have been anything. But I would love to have had it for the experience I would love to have been standing on a podium hearing the U.S. national anthem being played with USA on my chest and a gold medal around my neck. So,
Amazing feeling.
yeah, so that's an amazing feeling. But the championship, you play for the championships. And so winning the NBA championship and the way that we did it, the miraculous way that we did it, made it even that much more special.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I guess during your time, they used to send college teams to the Olympics. So maybe if it were done differently, you would have gotten a chance, like nowadays.
Well, the thing back then, they had a quota system. The team was predetermined. I wasn't even. It was my junior year. I wasn't even invited to go until the last minute because Gary Brads from Ohio State backed out, and I got a call, and they said, "We just got a call." They asked if you want to go. Otherwise, I wouldn't even been invited to the trials.
You were the leading scorer.
No. That was my senior year. That was my junior year. So I was 32 points a game. Mm-hmm. My junior year. I mean, so I was one of the top scorers in the country. But the problem was they had Hank Iba, who was the coach, and they already knew what they wanted to do. I mean, a lot of guys never got the real chance to play. A lot of guys made that team. Bill Bradley, who was a great college player and doing everything, had horrible trial. He didn't play well at all, and yet he made the team. And after my last game, when I played, and I didn't even get to play like I was capable of playing, Joe Lapchick, the great former Boston Celtic player and coach, came up to me and said, "Young man, I just want to tell you, you're not going to make the Olympic team." I thought they were going to go and talk about it after, and I thought I just played a really good game. "You're not going to make the Olympic team, but you are going to be a great pro basketball player." I remember the words like they were yesterday. So I'm thinking, how the hell does he know I'm not going to make the team if it wasn't already picked? Mm-hmm. Right? So I'm telling you, a bunch of guys made that team that had no business being on that team. I mean, and God bless them. They got the opportunity, but it was a horrible situation. And I thought I played well enough to make the team. I thought I played well in the trials, but unfortunately I didn't make it. Wasn't meant to be. And so that's it.
Rick, that's about it. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
So where do you live?
Zagreb, Croatia.
Zagreb. So here's the thing. I want to tell you something, folks. Just listen. Don't cut this out of your interview. Leave it on. Okay. I want to tell you something. I have done so many interviews over the years that, people have asked me to go on. And now, of course, these types of shows, which didn't exist back in those days, but I've done a lot of stuff. I've been a broadcaster for many years myself as well. And I would have to say that you are as well prepared as anyone that I've ever done it with. In fact, you are way better than most of the people, probably 95% of the people who have interviewed me, as far as your preparation, being prepared, the questions that you asked. And so I'm complimenting you on an outstanding job. You're a great broadcaster.
Thank you so much, Rick. It means a lot to me.
All right. Really all the best, and maybe we'll meet someday.
If you decide to come to Croatia on that cruise, be sure to send me a text, and I'll hook you up with all the best spots to visit.
Yeah, well, I've got your information now, a number and stuff to call. So if I get over, I'll try. Hopefully, I'll keep my faculties, and I'll be able to remember that by next April. I'll put it in my phone to put a reminder on myself over there. That's why I love the phones, because you can have reminders. But anyway, it was a pleasure. Enjoyed it. I was happy to give you a lot of time because you were great.
Thank you. Same here. Enjoy the rest of your day, Rick.
Thank you. God bless you and your family.
You too. Bye-bye.